This is my audience.
I'm Isaac.
I'm Amy.
Hello, I'm Diane.
Okay, my name is Adelina Vieira. My persuasive speech is on the topic of drug abuse. So, did you know that the National Center for Drug Abuse Statistics found that over 59 million people in the US, ages 12 and over, have used illegal drugs or misused drugs in the last year. So that's almost 1/5 of the population. Drug abuse is a very important issue. Even if you personally do not struggle with it, the chances are that you may know somebody who struggles with it. And as drug abuse increases, more and more people you may know will struggle with this. So God calls his people to help those in need. So as Christians, it is very important that we help those in need. So I grew up in LA and currently live near Seattle. Drug abuse is very prevalent in both those areas. I personally had a neighbor back in LA who abused drugs for many years, and he's older now, but and he doesn't do drugs anymore, but that drug abuse caused significant brain damage, so he's going to struggle with the effects of that for the rest of his life. Drug abuse is a major social problem, and it can be remedied in part by using a method that honors God by decreasing the availability of drugs and providing a better education on the topic. So this issue of drug abuse is very prevalent and it continues to increase. There are several causes, including increased availability of drugs, decreased consequences for using them, and very limited education on the dangers of drugs. There are also several proposed solutions which promote a God-valued outcome to prevent and decrease drug abuse, which include decreasing the availability of drugs and increasing education on the dangers. The issue of drug abuse is very prevalent and it continues to increase as a problem. Drug abuse is very prevalent throughout the US, as it was found that from 2011 to 2019, an increasing trend was observed in the prevalence of any substance use disorder among youth and young adults. Drug abuse is increasing as 13.5% of Americans 12 and over used drugs in the last month, and which is a 3.8% increase from year to year. Drug abuse, it impacts individuals as well as the community. It was found that from January 2015 to November 2021, the number of deaths due to drug overdose in the US doubled, and it reached a peak of more than 100,000 people. So this is my presentational aid. As you can see, it is the National Drug-Involved Overdose Deaths number among all ages by gender from 1999 to 2021. So this is 2019, over 70,000 deaths from drug overdose, and in 2021, that number reached over 106,000 people in just a year. So there are several factors that contribute to this prevalence of an increase in drug abuse. The contributing factors include increased availability, decreased consequences, and very limited education on its dangers. So the increased availability of drugs. The National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health reported that about 11% of American adults experience chronic pain, with 17.6% struggling with severe pain. So these people take prescription medication and oftentimes abuse it. And it was found that those who are addicted to painkillers are much more likely to abuse other kinds of drugs, like heroin. So there are also decreased consequences for drug use. The Pew Research Center did a study and it found that almost 70% of Americans think that the government should focus on rehabilitation rather than punishment for using illegal drugs like heroin or cocaine. Many states have also eased penalties for drug possession, and almost 2/3 of the public say that this is a good thing, that states have moved away from mandatory sentences for non-violent drug offenders. So this means that you can use and possess illegal drugs, but there are very little or very reduced enforcement of using or possessing those drugs. There are also very many uneducated views on the risks of drug abuse. So with an increasing legalization of marijuana, many view it as not dangerous because it is deemed one of the lesser drugs, but it still has a big impact, such as driving under the influence. A study from the behavioral health centers showed that less 10th graders perceive risks in taking inhalants, synthetic cathinins, crack, and Vicodin on occasions. So that means that the youth who are more susceptible to using drugs, they view it as less dangerous. There are many factors that contribute to drug abuse. There are also many solutions. These solutions promote a God-valued outcome, and they include decreasing the availability of drugs and increasing education on the dangers of them. So, decreasing availability of drugs, an article was done by the United Nations Offices on Drugs and Crime that the most effective way of tackling the problem of drugs was to address both supply control and demand reduction. The second solution is increasing education on the dangers of drugs and how to get help. So important interventions focus on raising the awareness of the harms from substance use disorders. This will help prevent people from abusing drugs because they will see the dangers for themselves and then they can choose not to do it. According to the National Institute from Drug Abuse, research-based prevention programs for youths would greatly reduce the risk because drug abuse often starts in youth, so by preventing that, you would prevent more drug abuse. This includes several programs such as universal programs, which target the community as a whole and all the youths within it. Then there are selective programs which target at-risk kids, and indicated programs, and those are for kids who have already begun abusing drugs. So reducing the drug abuse problem promotes a biblical value, which is sober-mindedness, as it says in 1 Peter 4:7, "The end of all things is at hand, therefore be self-controlled and sober-minded for the sake of your prayers." So you too can help prevent and decrease substance abuse by increasing awareness in educating family members and friends, as well as encouraging youths to avoid peer pressure and encourage others to take time for themselves to reduce stress and the risk of drug abuse. To conclude, the issue of drug abuse is a very prevalent and increasing problem caused by an increase in the availability of drugs, decrease in consequences, and very poor education on the dangers of it. Although the problem is very widespread, there are several God-valued solutions that can be used to lower drug abuse and increase awareness and education on the dangers of it, which also in turn promotes sober-mindedness. As Christians, we can all further God's plan when we help prevent and decrease drug abuse. Thank you.